Yes, I am wearing my Peloton Century Ride shirt, which arrived in the mail this week. Hello my friends, and welcome to today's video. As you can maybe tell, I was gonna say from me sitting in my exercise corner, but also the thumbnail and title of this video. This is the second in my series of trying different Peloton instructors for a week. This is going to be about my week with Jenn Sherman. I've previously done a video about Sam Yo, and I've also done a video about my first 30 days owning the Peloton, as well as completing the strength program. I keep wanting to call it starting strength, but I don't think that's right. I've decided to make a Peloton playlist on my channel, so if you go to the playlist on my channel, you can find that if you wish to watch my other videos. I'll also mention here, because I've forgotten to do this entirely in any of these videos so far, my username is Melissa_Ottawa, so if you want to follow me and friend me, I will follow you back. I love having more people to sort of keep an eye on, see what classes they're doing, and sort of compete against in the monthly challenges. I also want to mention where I am in my sort of fitness journey because I think it's specifically fairly relevant to this video. I have been on a bit of a health and weight loss journey. I've lost about 50 pounds so far, and I have about 30 pounds I would like to still lose. I am not the fittest person. I haven't been sort of an athlete my whole life, and when I started on the spin bike, not only was I a beginner with spinning, but as I said, just not super fit overall. And I still really consider myself a beginner. I find when I do a 30-minute class that is not sort of the advanced beginner class, I'm still at the very low ranges of all the resistance and cadence, and sometimes even find that a bit difficult. So when I'm providing these reviews, please very much remember that I'm doing this from a beginner point of view. As I did in my last video, in order to try to provide a little bit of structure to my review, I'm going to be doing this in 3 parts. The first is about the workouts themselves, the second is about the style of the instructor, and the third is whether I find them to be a personal fit for me. I decided I would do at least one class of every kind that the instructor does. So for Jenn Sherman, she does the cycling classes, she does some stretching, pretty much just post-ride stretches, and then also does strength training in the form of arm toning. So let's start by talking about her workouts. I started out by doing a beginner ride and then an advanced beginner ride before moving on to some of her non-beginner rides. And I noticed for Jenn, a lot of what she had were workouts based on the playlists. So 70s rock, 2000s pop, 80s rock, 90s pop. She had like some yacht rock stuff, and you could really choose by about the kind of music that you liked, which I really enjoyed. She also has a really large catalog of rides because she is Peloton's first instructor. So she has, you know, really a large catalog of rides that you could do and a huge amount of experience in leading the rides on Peloton. And she was previously a spin instructor before that, so just a lot of experience in being an instructor. And one of the great things about her having a larger catalog, I've seen some people sort of mention that Peloton doesn't really do a lot of longer rides anymore. It tends to be that they'll do like 20-minute rides, and I've even seen for Jenn, for example, there was a day where she did a 20-minute 2000s ride and then a 20-minute 2010s ride, and I think the idea is that they can use these to both appeal to people like me who can't do a super long ride, but then for people who want to do longer rides, you can stack them. However, Jenn has a lot of rides that are 45-minute rides or 60-minute rides. So if you want a longer ride that is structured throughout the entire thing without it being sort of like a 20-minute chunk and a 20-minute chunk, you might like looking at some of Jenn's rides. One of the things that I noticed in her workouts is that I don't find she provides a lot of framing at the beginning of the ride for what you're in for. So in other instructors I've done, I think specifically because I tend to do a fair number of beginner rides, they will say, you know, okay, in this ride, we're not going to go above a 45 or 50 resistance, and we're not going to go above, you know, 110 cadence. And she doesn't tend to do that. So I find going into rides, not that it makes a huge deal, but I like the ability to sort of frame for myself how difficult this is going to be and get ready for that. Interestingly though, the arm toning class that I did, I found she was really good at framing at the beginning what it was going to be. She was very much sort of saying, okay, we're going to do single arm exercises first on each side for the first 6 minutes, and then the last 4 minutes we're going to be working with the weights in both hands. So for that, I really knew what I was getting into, which I quite like. I've also done quite a few of her cool down rides. Basically every day that I did one of her cycling classes, I did one of her 10-minute cool downs, and they always follow the same structure, which I appreciate. So it seems to me that every one that I did, she starts out at a high resistance and then gradually brings it down by 5 points throughout the ride. So you're gonna start at 45, you're going to do that for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then you're going to be bringing it down to the 25 to 30 range. You never get out of the saddle on these cool downs, so if you like to know what to expect, I really liked that I could do these cool downs and know what I was getting. The final piece I'll mention about the workouts themselves is, and again, this may be because I'm a beginner, she seems to really favor high resistance. And where other instructors will say we're going to add a point or two of resistance, she is adding 5 to 10 points of resistance. I don't think I ever heard her say add 1 to 3. It was always sort of in chunks of 5, and I always found that the resistance in her rides ended up being higher than I expected it to be. So let's talk about her style. And because she has so many rides, this is really going to be influenced by what I noticed in the rides that I specifically selected to do. In her rides, she does focus the riding on the beat of the music. She will tell you this. So if you're ever really not sure where you should be in terms of cadence, really she wants you to be on the beat of the music. I do find her to be pretty, I don't want to say low key, but calm. You know, she's not going to be like yelling at you. She's not like super rah. I don't want to say motivational, because I think motivation can happen in a number of different ways, but she's not sort of trying to be self-help while you're doing a ride. She does swear during her rides, which I really don't care about, but if you do, that's good to know. And as I mentioned before, she has a number of rides that are based on the playlists. So if you're really driven by music, you can really find something that you like. I think a lot of people mention how much they like her playlists. And I really did find when I was doing some rides that there would be songs that would come up where I would go like, oh yeah, like I remember this song. I like this song. And I just, you know, it's not sort of one of those hit songs that everybody uses. So there's some really cool stuff in there. I find that when you're in a ride with her, she's focused on the ride itself. So she's not there to like entertain you. And maybe this comes from her background in being a spin instructor. You're very focused in the moment on the ride. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things that I had issues with when riding with Jenn. And it kind of relates a little bit to not having that structure at the start of the ride to sort of give you a framework. But I really found that I was getting frustrated with her not providing resistance and cadence notes. And maybe it's because I'm a beginner, maybe I'm too focused on the numbers, but I found so often I didn't really know where I was supposed to be in terms of cadence. So let me provide you an example, and this kind of thing happened over and over again. So you're doing a song, you're at a resistance of 40 and maybe a cadence of 85, and you're going and you know that when you hit the end of the song and move on to a new one, that she's going to provide you new numbers. So you get to the end of the song and she's like, okay guys, we're going to do, now we're going to bring the resistance up to like 50, 55. And you're doing that, and it's really hard because you're trying to maintain that cadence of 85 because she hasn't told you otherwise, and you'll be a good while into the next song before she says, and it's not even really giving you a cadence clue or prompt, she'll just say, yeah, you should be at a resistance of 55 and a cadence of 65 to 70. And it's like, well, you didn't tell me that. So I found that I was getting frustrated because she would pump up the resistance without telling you what the cadence should be. And I did find that as I rode with her for longer, I knew that it was going to be the beat of the music, and I would either decide to go with the beat and then she would tell me that a little bit later on, or I would think, you know what, I'm not going to increase my resistance until you tell me what cadence I'm supposed to be at. And it seems like a little thing, but it happened every ride and I was getting really frustrated with it. Another example related to the same thing is you would be doing something difficult, or at least for me it was difficult. Say you're riding at like a resistance of 55, which for me is quite hard still. And she would go like, okay guys, like 10 more seconds of this, because you were getting close to the end of the song, and she would count you down like 3 more, 2 more, 1 more. that's great, guys, you got it, way to go. But she would never tell you what to bring it back down to, or to decrease your resistance. And I would still be riding at this super high resistance because you hadn't told me otherwise. And this may be a thing where if you've done spin classes more, or maybe I'm too focused on the numbers. I get that I should just listen to my body and be like, okay, if you tell me we're doing this for 10 more seconds and we get there, I'll just take off some of the resistance. But I like having those cues, and I found it a little frustrating that I wasn't getting them. And relating back to what I said about high resistance, in the beginner ride that I did, she had you at a resistance of 50 at one point, and in the advanced beginner ride that I did, she had you at 60, which was like the highest resistance I'd ever had, and it was in an advanced beginner ride. My understanding as well is that the beginner rides are where you get to know the bike, you get to know like how you're supposed to be positioned and just sort of everything about it. And those advanced beginner rides are about getting you out of the saddle. And every advanced beginner ride that I've done before, part of what they're doing is coaching you on how to get out of the saddle. With some of them, like Sam Yo, they will tell you like sort of how to position your body, how to breathe, what you're thinking. And in some others, they teach you what second position is, what third position is. In the advanced beginner ride that I did with Jen, there was no coaching about getting out of the saddle. It was just like, okay, now we're up and doing a jog. And not only that, she had you at a resistance lower than 40, and every other instructor said you should have a minimum of 40 if you get out of the saddle. So I didn't find, she sort of said like, okay guys, third position. It was like, okay, I know because I've done this, but if I didn't know, there would be nothing to tell me what I should be doing right now. Moving into personal style, and you can probably feel this already from me, I just feel like I didn't click with Jen. And that's fine. There are so many Peloton instructors because different people will click with different styles. Just on a personal level, as I mentioned, I found the lack of prompts a little bit frustrating, and I just also found that her rides were too difficult for where I am now. And that's a personal thing because people who are more advanced would not find it as difficult as I did. This is going to be so picky, and I get that. She refers to the riders, she refers to you as the audience as like, okay kids, now we're gonna do this. I don't like being referred to as kid. However, again, I don't like being negative. Everybody clicks with something different. And some really positive things about Jen, I think you will get PRs with her because she does do more high resistance, more difficult rides. There were a few places where people responded to my comments in the last video and mentioned Jen, and I even asked a forum online because I was like, okay, tell me what your favorite rides are with her. Tell me why you like her, because I was just trying to give her the best chance possible. And someone did mention, you know, all of her rides were my PR rides for the longest time. And somebody else mentioned a couple of rides for me to try, and I did enjoy the ones that were recommended to me. She is one of those instructors who will sing along with the music, especially in cool down rides, but she does have a gorgeous singing voice. And I do think as well that her personal story may connect with certain people. I read a couple articles about her and it talked about how she was a stay-at-home mom before transitioning to become a spin instructor. And I think the fact that she is this like super strong mom who is, I think it said she's like 52 or something like that and leading these classes, there are people who will super relate to that and super love it. I mentioned a couple of rides that I really did like, and I will down below, I'll list all the rides and classes that I did, and I'll put asterisks next to these two. One was that I actually went back and did a second beginner ride, and I really liked the second beginner ride that I did. I found that her message was very supportive, very uplifting, and just really good for somebody coming into Peloton for the first time. I still think it was a high resistance ride, but I think the way that she was encouraging people was really, really good. I would recommend that ride to a lot of people on their first time if they were feeling very nervous about starting. Another ride that was recommended to me was one that she did, her 2000s ride that was the day after the insurrection happened in Washington. And she was very upfront in that ride about how she had gotten like no sleep the night before, that she was like not feeling super well. And it was one of the first times in the rides that I had watched where she had sort of talked a little bit more personally. And I thought it was a really great message about showing up even when you don't feel well. Like obviously don't if you're super sick, but that being on the bike was giving her an escape and a chance to think about something other than what was going on in the world, that she got to be in that moment and also got to be with other people. And I really appreciated that thought during that ride. So overall, I am not likely currently to come back to Jenn's rides, her general rides, until I feel like I'm a little bit stronger and want more of a challenge on the bike. I do think I'll use her cool down rides because I like that I know what I'm gonna get when I use them, and I'm looking forward to trying some more of her arm toning classes because I quite enjoyed it. I think I would recommend Jenn's beginner rides to somebody who is new to the bike, but not new to fitness. Somebody who's already fairly athletic, somebody who wants a little bit more of a challenge, but they're just getting to know the bike itself. I think the beginner rides would be really good for those folks. They'd probably be a little intimidating for people who are coming at it from a lower fitness level to start. So those are all of my thoughts on my week of riding with Jenn Sherman. I would love to hear your thoughts. And again, if you love her as an instructor or have specific rides of hers that you would really recommend, please let me know. I would still love to try them. As I said, I only got like a little sliver of her rides, so you know, the impression that I got is definitely not from a comprehensive look at her rides. If you did enjoy this video and enjoy this series, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel if you're not subscribed already. Please let me know your favorite instructors so I can give them a try in one of my future videos. I'm probably going to be doing one of these every 2 weeks because I do need to have some rest days in here. But I'm really enjoying getting to know new instructors, and I'm really happy that you chose to watch this video and hear some of my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!